Or right ahead of us. On the ground cuts. Us? This time we don't have to call for it, but... There's other trials. Finish. Danger. 30. Stop. Get out. Make it all the way to everything. Time to get to the long road. Good to see you again, old friend. Make history together.
Expedition set out for 4,000-foot mile long. There, equipment for the road project initially break ground. They hadn't traveled far, starting to survive.
Get up there! Master, you're away. Lieutenant? What is it? Back on the army.
U.S. Army has recently suffered a debilitating defeat at the hands of the Columbia Valley Tribes. The army continues its expedition. Its men join. Lieutenant John Mullen has barely begun his road-building expedition.
Always tell me, he's now on the helm of 30 head first down. Anything you want to do yourself.
You have to admit, you didn't know what you were doing.
Did you read? Didn't know you.
Oh, sucks, man. Find out. Yeah.
Yourself worthy. Hey.
Huckstad, that's old years of where I think not only their leadership but also their ability. Currently, John Mullen in hand-to-hand combat with the enemy warrior had proven that he was a man of a certain ability in the battle.
Nothing like this in Clark's journals.
that is that. It's a very basic spectacle to behold. Much of their head was to confuse and to intimidate the enemy that held you at that point. Helping a valley tribes and giving Colonel George Wright the near signal. It's tough, right?
Kind of, we're company out.
All around these bridges are massive numbers of warriors. Basically like putting it on, right?
10%.
Arnold, what's for that ridge?
That's the grassy field. The infantry push against the center of the ridge. At the rear, and the dragoons go to the left. And for the field. Take those scouts who look up on the right. Hit their flag. You need to push them off the ridge. And the field. So it's perfect.
I just want to launch a three-pronged assault against warriors on the playground. I'm going to send John Mullen and his scouts right flank, infantry under Wright's command. Move up. On the left, Major Greer and his brigade. All three of these parts of Wright's forces close in off the hills and trap them in the flanks behind the playground.
You get that flank and hold your position, Hollis. If you don't, they can sniff around us.
Got your orders. Oh, very important that John Mullen lead his mission to make these scouts battle. The only way he's ever going to build his road. The only way he's ever going to figure. The only way he's ever going to play a role in civilization. Regular Army soldiers also fight on this front. altogether, his attacks, the whole battle would fall apart. Trees, hit other people, all of them finally take the high ground, push the enemy warriors back. They have taken control completely. Let's clear the that. John Monk is said to her scouts at the Oka Army of Wolves. Planning for his proposed road coming in. What's going on? Got him routed. I'd say they don't find leader. Darrell plays a central role in crushing this uprising by the Andrew tribe. Also plays an important role in John Mullen's efforts. That's really cool. And kind of revisiting this effort. It's all about things to bring people to civilization. or he never started something he didn't finish. And it's pretty hard to understand the history of Montana without understanding the legacy of that highway that John Mullen left behind. John Mullen is part of a generation that really cements America's western expansion in its fullest form. In the Pacific Northwest, plot is the whole of American life in a way that really changed the region forever.
John Mullen sees himself as an empire builder, and he's correct. His road is going to be a great entree point for the areas heading west. Not only will it eventually become the Northern Transcontinental Railroad, it will eventually become a freeway in the 1950s. So this is the beginning of the end of the frontier west, and he plays a critical role in that great enterprise.
Baker's next move will be the difference between life and death. Also forgotten. One of the last great heroes of Western roads.
He isn't as famous as Jim Bridger, Kit Carson, but still, he is one of the most important of the mountain men in the last waning days of the fur trade.
In his lifetime, Baker was routinely described as supposed he was brave. He had nerves of steel. He was calm, under pressure. He was a fat shot, maybe the greatest shot. Like most mountain men, when Baker goes west, he's a total greenhorn. He's never been tested. He's never really been defeated. He's going to find himself in that position. He has to make decisions, life or death consequences, and he's going to find out what he's really made of in the end. St. Louis, he hears stories, adventures, riches lie just beyond the western horizon. And enamored with these stories, like many other young men, he sets his sights on heading west. People work. Baker speaks out with legendary trapper and explorer Jim Bridger. Chock full of mud. Right. You talk about a person who has been everywhere and done everything in the West. Jim Bridger is easily the first person that comes to mind. By the late 1830s, he's probably as well known as any living mountain at that point.
We got to do a fancy stars again right now. It's
Mr. Bridger! Bridger? Oh, Mr. Bridger! He's got red hair. He sort of stands out. And people recognize something. This young man.
What's your name?
Jim Baker.
Good to make your acquaintance. Jim Baker. Here, let me finish this yarn, and I'll give you the lowdown on going to the gate. Watch out.
Offers Baker an 18-month contract. And the new recruit gets a first taste of what he's signing up for.
This paper seems to be written in French, which I can't read. Can you tell me what this says so I know what I'm signing? I don't read French either. But it makes no difference either way, my boy. Ever seen a man get scalped? Nice words for it is hair. Most effective method is to take your knife and run it right under here. That's enough, Henry. Every time. Same thing. Why don't you bring yourself?
Henry Craig is Jim Bridger's close friend and business partner.
They came up together in the fur trade. They were both among 100 first enterprising men in Ashley's expedition during the boom years of the fur trade.
Don't listen to my partner here. The paper says you worked for me for 18 months. Now, make no break. You give me everything you want, everything you trap. I try my best. Make sure you keep your scalp. Is that fair? Hey, Mark.
For a lot of these men, death was ever present in the West. You know, we talk today about taking it one day at a time, but for them, that was just survival 101. You weren't guaranteed a tomorrow in the mountains.
All right. Looks like we have got a new recruit. Didn't scare me much.
For Jim Baker, the next 18 months are an education in every aspect of frontier life.
Baker probably couldn't have had a better mentor than Jim Bridger. He's an experienced trapper, experienced hunter. He's had all manner of encounters and experiences, native people, adventures.
By summer, Bridger's party reaches the Laramie Plains, a traditional
No single tribe has it's a variety of different tribes. Arapaho,
All of a sudden, he's right in the middle of a very exotic, different world from what existed east of the Mississippi River. And so, hey kid, you want an adventure? Well, you found it.
Well, I'll keep it in. Try to get along with. This is so lost. You know, since a man like that back of his head, he ain't lost. You won't be our ass, but I'll give you these pelts as friends.
Bridger had a real gift of forcefully but remaining friendly with most of the native peoples he encountered. With native peoples, the raw showing was a definite disadvantage, and Bridger knew that. The Bridger and a different sort of frontier. Been really confrontational. This encounter to quickly devolve into probably one of the things. But a little bit of frontier prairie diplomacy goes a long way.
Fact is, we're not instant country. They know that. Or they know that I know that. Again, way to show respect. Same time they come to understand you're not a pushover.
It becomes apparent to Baker, as it had to all Mountain, that if you're going to strike at of the essence.
See what you got. Yeah. Come show me. You can Richard. Want to see if you're as strong as they are. Let them know you are. The other man's notes for the day.
First trip west, Baker professes his mentor his skill as a hunter and marksman. Get the plug. In just a few months, Jim Bridger comes to recognize Baker, a viable years. When his contract with Bridger ends, Jim Baker returns to his home state of Illinois, up and wiser from the excitement of the West has gotten him.
Like a lot of young people that have gone through these experiences, they sort of fallen in love with the lifestyle of free trapper and frontier. He kind of itched to get back out west.
A year later, Baker heads back out for the ride. He unites with Jim Bridger in present-day Wyoming.
You just can't run it. We're not stop. Keep up in this thing. It's almost on me. You didn't stop. Run it coming. What you did?
How's business and family in Illinois? But miss these mountains, gonna stay away.
You see, good to see you.
What's all this?
New enterprise. A bad spot for trading folks.
Bridger made camp on the west bank of the Green River, close to later developed into his legendary trail.
Right. He's out with a few others come down on the Snake River.
Fun looking horn.
About the trade. You know when it came around here? I starved to death. Full mountain. I give him a mule. My old 5 ounce bacon. Pickle the eggs. My friend thinks it's too much for horse for me. What would he know?
Get that ball out of him.
I live. It looks like we're going to get Jones, Tours, and Arapaho to those two down there. In Cheyenne.
With enemy tribes banding together to target trappers and their Shoshone allies, Bridger worries that his partner, Henry Frey, is in their path.
Tell him the bushes. You go down little street, you find Henry. There's trouble coming. Don't reckon you've been out there this long.
Richard knows Brave can take care of himself, but when he gets word that there could be dozens or more native warriors from multiple bands descending on Brave's camp, he has to get that warning out. He really trusts Baker to deliver that message.
Hope he won't come. You tell me. I said to come with him. Yeah. That one.
After a hard day ride, Baker arrives at Henry Frey's camp.
Cheyenne and Arapaho banded together. They're on the warpath.
They raided us once already. I expect to see him again. Richard says you need to come back. That's that. Well, he's my partner, not my boss.
Baker's surprised, but already well aware of the moving threat. He's not inclined to let himself be
Winter will be on before too long. Yes, good in here. See buffalo to the north. I ain't run from a fight before. Find it starting now because a few Arapaho is on the prowl. We'll dig in and stay till our work is done. If they come, we'll be ready.
Among Frey's men were Shoshone, but partnering with the trappers, they made themselves, well, like Frey, they won't be intimidated. They know that a fight is coming.
Brave has no choice but to sort of dig in, Hereford Battle. So, moves his trappers and his Shoshone into an area they can more easily defend. A couple more to fill this gap, and I think we got it. They start piling whatever they can find. Packs, supplies, down trees, try and make some kind of a defensive position. Well, back east, we used to build forts in the woods as kids. Didn't expect to make them out here. Fort like this has saved my life on more than one occasion.
All right.
Now, the attack has to come through there, between the river and the trees. We'll be waiting right here.
War and the attack in greater numbers than any of these trappers have seen before. And Jim Baker's first frontier battle be a true trial by fire. Equal trapper Jim Baker and Brigade Leader Henry Frey are preparing their camp for a possible attack by a massive force of Plains warriors.
Tribes like the Sioux, the Cheyenne, the Arapaho that formerly had fought each other now see that they have a common enemy. So they're joining together in a united front against this white invasion.
You really think we'll need blindfolds? You bet. Nice and low. Deep enough to bury a man in. Ryder, coming in. Much like it. Use another gun. Looks like you had a long ride. Arapaho, too.
Killed my partners. Took our horse herd in the bargain. Had to be 40 warriors. Had to ride for my life. What would you do? How far off was this? 2 days ride along the river?
He's a fool and a coward.
But likely he's right about the big war party.
They're coming and we'll need extra meat in case we'll ford it up a while.
You and Billy, see if you can spot that buffalo herd.
Yeah. You be careful now. Keep your eyes peeled. That fella's right. Likely to be close.
Baker sets out to hunt. And soon, Travis' worst fears are confirmed.
Baker looks up and sees combined forces of Sioux, Cheyenne, and Arapaho, as many as 500 or more men.
Baker sees the sheer size of the force coming at him. He realizes that now this is a fraction.
Baker needs to sound the alarm. Coming danger.
That's dead, boys. I mean, where the Jeff?
Native warriors are coming on such a show because they know they have the numbers and they believe they can intimidate these men out of that position.
Trappers are shot.
Me. We're the woman warriors never seen like myself.
The name of this female war leader is lost to history. Even though female warriors were rare, they were every bit the equals to their male counterparts. For a woman to lead a war party, you have to be a very formidable, recognized war leader or war captain in order to gain the respect of the people to follow.
The way she was dressed, the power she seemed to have over them, and all of them had to be really unnerving to the trappers.
But they want to parlay.
Trades one hope of winning a costly battle. Successfully negotiate a parlay.
Anytime you can avoid a fight on either side, it's always going to be perceived as a victory. With such tremendous numbers on their side, the warriors really believe they can achieve both their goals of getting the trappers out of this region and maybe fleecing their supplies and horses in the process.
Looking for a fight. Defend ourselves if need be.
Give us all your horses.
In this region, horses are life. If the trappers were to give up their horses, it virtually guaranteed their demise.
Well, Frank's too smart for that.
Take our horses, we're as good as dead.
If you refuse, we fight. And you die.
We fight.
The parlay has failed. Freed's men have no choice but to prepare for battle.
Take cover, man!
The trappers and their Shoshone allies are well armed, but the Arapaho and Cheyenne have numbers on their side and deadly skill with their bows and arrows, lances, and helmets.
they come.
Native form party. They see an adversary who has an advantage, and they want the trappers to start shooting. They're trying to provoke a frenzied emotional response, to expend all their ammunition and leave themselves vulnerable to attack.
Let them get it close.
Baker said they got to within 10 or 15 paces of us. That's pretty darn close.
Henry Craig was as far as you could even his small party of trappers.
Remember what I told you? Don't shoot till you got a clear shot. Y'all don't fire once. Now, fire!
The play forward well. The trappers in one rush, but frenzy. Alternate fire. They're firing while others are reloading. You don't have as much firepower, but still you've got a constant stream of firepower.
First charge.
He exposes himself to the enemy, and he's probably trying to rally or inspire. We see scenes like this play out in history all the time. This time, it was a catastrophic mistake.
Jim Baker in his test of Houston. Each battle, the massive force of Plains warriors, Jim Baker's brigade mate, Henry Craig. These that have raised the trappers independent.
This long, thorough party of men, suddenly, that was needed. What you have is a group of very young trappers that consider themselves leaderless. You're leaderless on the frontier. You're dead. Begins to say that that leadership, and into that vacuum steps the most unlikely leader of all, Baker himself. Be next. It's in the heat of this battle that we see the real Jim Baker rise up. There's no leader, chaos and panic all around him. He remembers he had some of the best teachers in the game. He stands up and he takes it upon himself to save his name.
Everything down. Mark the line of order. Ready?
Jim takes charge of the situation and immediately starts giving orders. He immediately starts having some unload while others are firing.
Baker, constant stream of fire going. Baker's about to charge. Baker's men move back.
All day, those guys at work.
Remember to keep your head down.
Great, take it over.
Hey.
Whoa. I'm talking to you.
Hey. Yeah.
Evans.
Wave after wave of Cheyenne and Sioux and Arapaho permanent trappers, and they really take very serious casualties. There's so many dead bodies that Baker says you can see the water turning red as more and more blood just goes down that hill into the creek.
Just as victory seems within his grasp, Baker faces shocking recovery. Their supply of blood left almost completely exhausted. Baker's leadership kept the men alive so long, but now he may be leading them to death. He has no idea what it is. Baker regains his composure long enough to fend off the charge, but he knows the trappers' power of battle may not outlast the warriors of his land.
Baker's strategy to this point, when he's running low on the ammunition, and the native warriors are keeping up the pressure, they're showers of fiery arrows. Something has to give really soon. Got one left. We hold on to the next charge then.
You don't want to bet on it. They knew that they were low on ammo. It would be very easy just to open you get this massive rush and take the time.
Like sunset. Morning. When you see the start.
Travelers are realizing that the curtain's coming down on their brave last man, and they don't figure out something quick. Either a way to keep fighting or a way to get out of there. They'll likely never see the next one.
Baker's worst fears come true. Trappers enter the last run
But if you run out of ammo, your rifle is basically a war club. You're going to have to fight hand-to-hand, toe-to-toe, some of the greatest hand-to-hand combat warriors the world ever seen.
Baker and his men waits for a mass charge, knowing that he could finish them off. But then, after hours of battle against a massive force of warriors, Jim Baker and his trappers have run out of ammunition. But then, and they steal it, desperate, sad. But the warriors won't charge. Instead, the war parties leave their butchers.
Where do you search?
If Baker is killed, there will be no hope for the rest of the small band of trappers. Arapaho and other warriors choose to walk away from the battle.
It was not unusual for one or two to be enough for a war party to say we've had enough. Here you had a lot of deaths.
Over 100 warriors killed. Only 40 trappers.
It had to have gotten to a point where they finally just said, this is not our day. Let's just stop this foolishness because we have way more people getting killed than we need to. Yeah.
In his first command of a battle against overwhelming numbers, Jim Baker emerges victorious.
This is the moment Baker emerged as the leader among men. This is the point in his career where he becomes a Baker of legend.
Okay. Here. Buried him right near our fort. Kept us in that fight. You kept us in that fight. I made some great hard mistakes. Jim? No very much.
Weeks later, Baker heads out on a new adventure, a trapping expedition into the southwest.
Here, good evening. Need to see some new country, Billy. Liberty of putting your saddle on this beast. Wish I could pay a horse, Jack. Yeah. She's had a way of coming into my life. Maybe Freeber's right. Maybe it is too much horse for me. You can get starch out in. You know, really do love these mountains.
In 2 short years, Jim Baker had grown into a seasoned mountain man, and now his future in the West is wide open.
The Bridger!
Jim Baker is so young when he first comes to the mountains, and he really was an important character in the early settlement of the American West as a trailblazer, Army scout, and as an early pioneer. Most impressive at leadership, and he's looked up to and respected. He built the first permanent residence in the state of Wyoming. He moves America. 1859 gold rush in Colorado, and would become one of the founding fathers of the state. Some people are just meant to be there, and Jim Baker is one of those people.
truck. And among the cowboys working on ranches, hey, that's well,
I can relate to the freedom that you get, the element of nature and the beauty of nature. And here we go.
I mean, third generation cowboy slash rancher. My dad is doing it, my grandfather is doing it, and I am doing it.
they're following. Trailblazing black cowboys, the able.
Growing up, I watched a lot of Western guns and mostly riflemen. I had no idea that black cowboys made up 1/4 of the cowboys that we see. People who do not know that blacks accounted for 1/4 of the American cowboys, they should not be embarrassed by that fact because truth be told, I didn't know that myself, and I'm a black cowboy and I didn't know that.
Following. Insulated black men outwork his cowboy. What was then the beast?
Around 1880, the majority gross national economy of the United States was the cattle business, and it was huge. And Texas supplied the cattle to most of the other states that got involved in ranching, became big ranching states. Wyoming, Montana, Nebraska, clear up into the Dakotas.
Looking at cattle, iron boats, and an appetite for hard work. Qualities those black cowboys.
Back in 1800, you didn't have any choice but to be a hard worker to survive and make a living for yourself and your family. And you had no choice but to work hard and have grit behind. And those gentlemen went up the trail. You find them in photographs, you find them in the records everywhere. And you find references to them in
Absolutely. Black cowboy is right in the middle of that story.
among these families. Playing character. Following his captain's war. Fighting in the West. Opportunity in not put a horse with $50 in raffle. Promised a horse back to his owner. And one horse again for the raffle. Back to his owner.
Why don't you keep them things dry?
Leaving half his mother, love-headed from the frontier, the most important thing in America. Leaving behind, gas.
He's gone and I still ain't ready yet.
Bro. We're gonna know my name on. Watch.
Despite his lack of formal recognition, Love had a high demand.
Nate Love was a tremendous rider. They would say that there was not a horse that he could not ride. The other thing about Nate Love was he was really, really good in terms of roping, herding cattle.
And you had to have a skill set. Otherwise, you couldn't survive. You had to have something that someone wanted.
Nate Love headed straight for the place every aspiring cowboy wanted to dodge circumstances. No plans.
Nate Love never quit, and he always had that kind of grit to where you couldn't deter him or derail him.
And he also developed an ethic of hard work, cowboy's job entails.
When you're in the sun, 4 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock at night, and you want to quit, and you got every reason to quit, the cowboy is not quitting when the sun goes down, just when the job is done.
Loves felt a respected member of the ranch group.
By the early 1870s,
probably signed on with the trail crew on the Western Trail, which was the primary trail that went up north, up through western Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, up to the Dakota. Texas reputation up in South Dakota at Deadwood.
That's what of the bear. Things have been that's it. Arrived in Deadwood just before the town's 4th of July celebration. Jubilee featured a series of contact of sign. Let's go! Competition involved breaking wild Mustang.
Unbroken! No! You see, Cowboys, because when you drive by, it was a horse considered unrideable or unapproachable, and he just kind of gritted his teeth and went and got it done. Go do the 600 feet. 15 yards. And back here. According to Nate Love, he earned the nickname Deadwood Dick. And you know, there's a tradition of nicknames in the West. Think of people like Billy the Dick. Autobiographies published about these Western heroes. They're a direct product of the dime Westerns from the 1870s and 80s.
The book is a testament to Love's adventure across the West. Especially both black cowboys.
Nate Love, one of the toughest cowboys ever became law.
And Nate Love is a cowboy to aspire to be like. Is a courageous man who puts his mind to something and sticks with it, no matter what trouble comes his way.
Back, confident in himself. Love left home. Boy, attention, way more.
Nate Love was definitely somebody that you look up to when you think about African Americans and the contribution.
Black cowboy, Richard, shit, of his cattle
My definition of a cowboy is they got morals and they mean what they say and they say what they mean.
If we're the Cowboys, good hand was good hand. Now, black, white, Spanish, everybody.
The American dream is to have your own land, your own force, your own ranch operation.
for a frontier legend, Moe's icon.
Both walk too fast, I can't see for it. Both Eichert was enslaved person in Mississippi, Dr. Milton Eichert, and raised in Parker County. He was born, we believe, between 1843 and 1847, but he was always on a ranch and always managing cattle. And he just got better and better at it.
While his proficiency in both cattle was inherent from his part, he also proved after the rifle. Cattle drive, Texas, Colorado.
Herd cattle from Texas, Colorado back in 1800s. I can imagine the amount of grit the man had to have, the toughness, not had knowing where your next water was for your cattle, having to deal with Indians, ability, storms, elements. He went to work for Oliver Loving and subsequently Charles Goodnight, the names associated with the Goodnight Loving Trail.
Oh, we need you to stay out as a swing rider today. Guys want me to keep the herd together.
Yes, sir. Our job is to keep cattle alive. The bigger the cattle, the better cattle, the more money you make as a rancher. And so we try to take care of our cattle. Not mean to them, because that's our source of income.
Eichert wasn't just a hard worker. Time and time again,
Faithful relationship. Yeah, they were going to respond to this each other well. And both Eichert basically became Goodnight's second in command.
and trusted lieutenant, and asked for those transport the all-cash product.
Thank you, J-Bo. Let's go back down to Texas.
It was a cash economy, and gold was the standard. You took payment from the military, especially gold, but you couldn't do bank transfers. And so Eichert was responsible for getting that gold back to Parker County from Goodnight.
Both Eichert was an excellent cowhand, trusted to carry out duties that were often not assigned to black people.
Charles Goodnight was abundant desperados trying to empty his pockets.
Well, the way they pulled it off, the cover on this saddle, called the machine. It's a one-piece leather cover, covers the whole saddle. This was a saddle that was a lot during the trail drives. This one was made in Rungy, Texas, which is southeast of San Antonio. But if you see this cover, they would lift that cover up, stuff the gold underneath that at the end of the trail drive, and those would ride that saddle back to Texas. Oh,
Leather camouflage was a key success, allowing Eichert to do his journey out. Boats and many more adventurous years Cowboy Trail. And he established a ranch of people where the children played ball from him.
And they went through all kinds of things together. They had like 3 engagements with Comanche. He also mentioned about how spoke very highly of his character and the way he rode.
both Eichert lived until 1929. He died of the flu, and he died in Austin.
At the time of his death, Charles Goodnight
boast on his epitaph that he never shirked duty. He never disobeyed an order.
Epitaph is probably one of the most quoted in the cattle industry, and in that period of history. Beautiful.
Both Iker was a responsible person and had a great effect on Goodnight because, he really didn't want to deal with people who were full of nonsense.
And that's the way that Goodnight thought of Buzz Iker. Top cowboy who did his job and did it unfailingly very well.
Buzz Iker was a hero of open range. Remembered, honored, vetted.
He was thought of so highly that he earned Lone Star here right in the 45 yards along Banished Avenue.
Black Americans helped win the West only as cowboys. One of the most daring, best performers of the whole West. Western born, Bulls and Cowboy, Gunfire, Rockets, just one and the same.
You hear about Wyatt Earp and Billy the Kid, and those cowboys who really they were cowboys, but they were also gunslingers.
Most cowboys only carried guns to help them.
That's an important distinction that's sort of lost in the blending of that association of a cowboy with a gunfighter or a lawman. There isn't.
One of them
If I had an opportunity to go back and meet somebody, I tell you what, I would have loved to Bass Reeves because he was real. Bass Reeves rode a horse like a cowboy, but he's one of the baddest U.S. marshals today.
Bass Reeves, which was young man. When the Civil War began, he followed his master's study, Confederate Army. Life
The story says that he was playing in a card game and got cheated in the card game.
You'll give me a minute. The cheaters from Jones, that's for sure. He cheated.
He got in a fight with both men over a poker game. Bass Reeves felt him get cheated and he hit him and knocked him out.
that moment on, Bass Reeves came from the Polish way to the territory. One of the Seminole tribes.
Yeah.
Bass Reeves, Oliver, Black, United States Deputy Marshal, deputized by Isaac Parker of Payne. He was deputized with 200 other deputies. He was operating in a largely lawless area. That state of Oklahoma was known as an area where outlaws really pretty well governed everything. Don't do that! Notorious for always getting his man. Anytime that he was given a writ to go out and get them. He couldn't read, but he made it happen. He was also a master of disguise. So he would dress up like a hobo. He would go into your camp and say, "Hey, I got you. Come on, you going with me." And you go dead or alive. He did fought in his day. He fought in over 3,000 troops in 35 years.
But in 19,
That Reed's ended up killing his wife, and all the other marshals were taking the warrant because they had so much respect for Bad. Shot Cassidy.
One comes in. He goes, he goes, well, I got one.
Takes a lot for me to hurt his own son when he could have just simply walked away and just let his son go. So that's why I have a lot of respect for that. Heard that he had in his line of work and paved the way for fellow African American deputies and sheriffs and law enforcement.
Fast inspired countless legends that he may have inspired from a lone character, only the most popular Western series ever made.
After Bad Reed went out and made friends with the Indians, he came back to town, but wouldn't nobody recognize him. He had a mask on, came back with an Indian friend. And this is where true story of the Lone Ranger, a guy who I always admired, really comes from being a black man, Bad Reed.
Whether or not that means that's a legacy.
I was always in the Cowboys, Bar Rogers, and the Lone Rangers, but I didn't know it was black cowboys back in the day. I wanted to be like the Lone Ranger and Bar Rogers because I had that Western in me.
Just like the character inspired, Bass Reed always kind. Not all black cowboys earned their heritage from law enforcement powers. Coming up, we'll see how one man continues to go by sheer hard work, rising to that. Today's modern cowboys on, and it's not a job.
Being a Ranger cowboy is hard work, but the fact is you're always working 365. There's always something to do, whether that's feed cattle, fixing fences, checking the water, never a dull moment, so always find something, find yourself in the ranch world.
Yet in the case of George McJunkin, the hard work of the cowboy went hand in hand. Mine, after scientific. George McJunkin was born a slave, one son. Texas plantation of Johnson. George's father was a blacksmith. That's how
Racist about George McJunkin as able to buy freedom to not be slaves. That was accomplished after acknowledged back in that.
from the United States, better future, far off. As a young man, mastered arts and skills from a cowboy, while learning a new language at the time.
George McJunkin was unusual in that he taught himself Spanish because he was around those Mexican vaqueros as part of his work.
McJunkin was reportedly a continuing cowboy. Chance encounter changed the trajectory of his life.
George McJunkin, he wasn't just a great cowboy, he was actually a defender of people who were in trouble. One time, one of his bosses sent him down south for found some outlaws beating up a man.
Hey, Lord. Oh, working that hard. Let him be. Let him be.
Turns out that the man he saved was a local military men from Fort Bayard.
Right. Got no expectation of reward. So what any decent folk would do. Money I have ain't mine to give, but you have this. Okay. Hopefully maybe you can teach some of this.
That telescope opens eyes, entire world, fascinating, discovery.
Because of his natural interest and fascination with science, but he carried a telescope on his saddle. Cowboys didn't do that. He might carry field glasses, maybe binoculars, but telescope almost always with him, and so he was fascinated by the natural world in particular.
In 1889, first were big thought, opportunity, almost unheard back then at that time and place. Dr. Thomas Owen was a prosperous inventor operating in both border areas. Hold on.
Now, I have another matter to discuss, George. We've got 2,000 head of cattle to get to market, 20 men to get the job done, and I put someone new in charge. Gotta be you, George. This is your job. Sure about this? About a cattle to give you more things. Already have the respect of the others, because they know George McJunkin is the best darn cowboy in New Mexico. We'll let you down, Dr. Holt. No. Work for Dr. Owens in New Mexico with the charge of 2,000 head of cattle and 200 head of horses and 20 cowboys. Well, that's pretty unusual those days. And so he would have been the boss of white cowboys, Hispanic cowboys, and possibly some black men as well.
But although Major achievements as a cowboy and rancher are impressive, he earned his place in America. Fairly unexpected.
George McJunkin, archaeologist. He loved working bones, arrows, and discovering history.
In 1908, he was going through an arroyo and he saw some massive bison bones. He knew they were different from what he was used to, so he collected these fragments.
As a keen observer of the natural world, McJunkin knew he found something unprecedented and that the scientific know about it.
It took someone very sophisticated to the West littered with bones. After the Great Buffalo Slaughter, but to see these bones, it took someone who was quite knowledgeable and quite determined to bring the attention of the scientific community to that site near Folsom, New Mexico.
McJunkin collected stippled giant bison bones and, more important, primitive stone tools for both points of testing. In these ancient maps, university testing archaeological science.
At first, he couldn't get the attention of archaeologists, but ultimately he sent the bones that he found to Denver, where experts finally came to study what he had found.
McJunkin's persistence finally paid off. This discovery literally rewrote the book about freedom for North America.
It was believed that the ancestors of the native peoples of New Mexico were here for about 3,000 years, but George's find extended that back by another 7,000 years, putting the native people here 10,000 years ago.
Today, the area is known as one of the most important archaeological discoveries ever made.
So this was a major find. George McJunkin made a major contribution to archaeology, not only in New Mexico, but in North America. George was a cowboy, and he was also an archaeologist. It's a history that we need to learn and be proud of.
In America, own your own home, own your own brand. George purchased his freedom with his dad. He was able to have his own ranch and to live the American dream. dream as an athlete.
Fortunately, going west, almost anyone can find his fortune. Sometimes, I never. Many cowboys are proud of their prowess in battle. Many show off their skill. Not only help the farmers support the village, also one of the skill and expertise. Many modern cowboys go hand in hand with professional rodeo. Traces everyday skills cowboys use on the range.
Oh, the cowboy never thought it would happen. Now, and I heard a guy talking about rodeo, and he was talking about a black guy that was good. That stuck with me, rodeoing at 8 or 9 years old.
My rodeo experience is great. Had a chance to experience, traveling and meeting new people. It's just a great time, man. And I loved it.
These rodeo riders are Bill Pickett, amazing talent, helped create a loved by millions of Americans today. Born in Texas, Bill Pickett,
Bill Pickett actually got his start as a working cowboy in Texas, and then made his way north up into Oklahoma, and that's really how he was hired on, is his skills as a cowboy.
You broke him already?
That ain't got to be a bad thing. I mean, I think that's an important thing to remember about his story is he was a working cowboy first, before he became a performer on the stage at Wild West shows.
Take a look. What's the good work? Same time next week, right?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And it was Pickett's unique bringing horses helped launch the next stage of the momentum.
Bill Pickett was a working cowboy, which means that he actually worked to make a living. He didn't start out into being a rodeo star until 1906. And before that, he and his brothers actually owned a horse breaking company called the Rough Riders Horse Breaking Company, which actually made them entrepreneurs in the early 1900s.
Well, Bill Pickett and his brothers, they began training horses, and they started training horses and get them to where they'll get soft and get to where you can perform on them.
While breaking, Bill Pickett developing the showmanship goes hand in hand.
He was a performer, and he knew about showmanship, and he knew about drama, and he knew that to be a performer, you had to do something that was quite spectacular. And so what he came up with is what's known as bulldogging today.
And when you kind of lean off his horse, grab the steer by the horn, and wrestle him down by biting the top lip of the steer, truly biting the lip. And he would throw his hands up in the air like this, and he would fall back. When he fall back, that steer would fall back with him.
Today they use the horns for leverage, but that was a pretty unique thing for audience.
You can spot that old fool? I just see that?
No, that's how you do it. Hey, you're done.
Well, you might be the craziest son of a gun I ever seen.
And then a guy by the name of Joe Miller actually saw that. He was with 101 Ranch. When he saw that, Joe Miller wanted to get Bill Pickett to be a part of his Wild West show.
Mr. Pickett? My name's Joe Miller. My brother Zach and I own this. I know who you are. How can I help you? I think a lot of people would pay to see what I just saw you do. You could be the star of the 101 Ranch Wild West show. You're a natural-born performer, so for you, that's a limit. Open on the show, I can't go out there looking like this. I need a whole new hat, boots, whole new gear. I think we can arrange that for you. Thank you.
Hold on. Now known as let's see. Bill Pickett, first star performer.
Bill Pickett did a job on 101 Ranch. That was big to have an African American out there.
Bill Pickett, one of the rodeo stars of his time, playing himself in a fairly silent movie called The Bulldogger. Rodeo. Cowboy. While working again at the Miller Ranch where he stands, life.
He went back to work as a ranch hand on the 101 and was trying to break a horse. And was kicked in the head by the horse and died when he was 62 years old in 1932. I tell people all the time it was tragic, but how many people died doing what they love to do? So he went out, as they say, as rodeo warrior, died with his boots on.
Hey, Bill Pickett is one of the cowboys who ever lived. Honored all across the country.
Now, Bill Pickett, of course, is inducted into the National Rodeo Hall of Fame in 1972.
And his poster hangs in my museum. It hangs at the National African American Museum. We celebrate Bill Pickett as breaking the color barrier. Rodeo. So,
Cowboys and riders today means pride.
Bill Pickett's influence with the black cowboys, it gave them a stepping stone to let them know that they can go and they can do anything that they wanted to do. So he left a legacy to carry on, and I think that they have done a pretty good job still following in that footsteps.
Coming up, an entire generation of black cowboys. Black cowboys have left a legacy until helps define the American.
I would definitely say that cowboys represent the true American spirit of freedom, adventure, the lack of any sort of limitation. And absolutely, the black cowboy is as vital to American history as any other culture group, and especially representative of the ideals that the cowboy represents.
Well, if those ideals can inspire a generation of black cowboys as today. Some, like Don Lee, the lifelong career out of their love for horses.
I'm